Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the campus of Eastern Washington University for our Big Sky Digital Media Day. We're going to have our women's team go first with head coach Wendy Schuller and senior Tisha Phillips. Just a reminder for those who are waiting to ask in questions to please press star 1. Once again, that's star 1 if you're waiting to ask questions, and we'll get to those questions in about 5 minutes. But first, we're going to start with head coach Wendy Schuller and senior Tisha Phillips, and then we'll move on to our men's team, where head coach Jim Hayford and senior Julian Harrell will be on air with us. So first, we'll just welcome everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll go ahead and get it started here. The first question is just for head coach Wendy Schuller. Coach, what are some of your goals from this past season, and what kind of a team do you expect to have in the 2016-17 edition?
We're really excited about the team that we've got coming back from last year. This summer, our team worked extremely hard in the weight room, on the floor, just specifically on certain skills that each player had to work on. And so I feel like our team chemistry, our strength, our skill level is all improved over last year. And we had a nice season last season, but it wasn't enough for us. And so we have high expectations. I know that Tish and AP want to have phenomenal senior years, and I think that we've got a nice mix of players that put us in a position to do so.
Now, you guys were preseason fourth in the coaches poll, fifth in the media poll, fifth in the coaches poll, and you guys are returning 4 starters, and 3 of them made up 52% of your scoring last year. So while, yes, you guys do lose the program's all-time leading scorer in Haley Hodgins, you still bring a lot of offensive firepower from last year.
We have a lot of firepower back. I think a lot of times because Haley was such a special player, players would defer to her a little bit, who, including the one right next to me. Tish had, big games for us last season, and it was kind of her coming out party, and now she's in a position to really lead us and be a major factor for us offensively. And I think that we're pretty talented and deep, and I was surprised, frankly, because we have, 4 starters back off of the second place team in the league last year, but that team was picked 9th, and so it makes sense in terms of just the amount of respect that our program gets or doesn't get.
And speaking of that, what's the message that you can maybe give to your fans about buying tickets when they go on sale for the Big Sky Championships in Reno? They do go on sale November 14th. Every school will be down there. What are the message that you would send to your fans and maybe encourage them to buy a ticket package down to Reno?
Reno was a fun experience for us last year. It was a great tournament atmosphere. It was neat having everybody, all in the same hotels and, crossing each other's fans and things like that. It was nice to be able to support our men's basketball team and have them support us. It was a great experience, and I know that all the fans that were there really had a great time. And so I encourage if you haven't done it to experience it, go do it, because Reno's a neat city to go visit, and you're going to see 2 great basketball teams with ourselves and the men. Both competing for championships, and you'll enjoy the experience. And people who went last year, come back.
Now, you've already touched on it a little bit here, but with the 4 starters coming back, there's going to be faces that fans are familiar with. Just talk about maybe some of those players in particular and what they've done in the offseason to maybe improve their game and step up and into that role and make up for that scoring that you guys will lose in Haley.
Well, it starts again with Tisha and Ashley Payne, our 2 seniors, who both in the off season, just improved just specific aspects of their game that we just felt like we needed to get better at. They spent a lot of time, and we've seen that carry over just in the first weeks of practice. So those are 2 players that definitely, I think, deserve respect and will be major factors for us this year. And then you have Delaney Hodgins, who was recognized on the all-conference team last year and the preseason team. Delaney's another player that I think will be able to score for us and pick up some of that scoring load. I also feel like our post game is improved from a year ago. We were young and inexperienced inside last year, and I think we have a renewed emphasis on getting the ball into the post, and I think they're very capable of helping us out. And I think if we have that inside-out game, then it makes us just that much more effective offensively. So Amira Chandler and Mariah Cunningham will be, really good in the post. And, I like who we have. I like our mix.
This next question is for Tisha. Tisha, you're the returning senior point guard here. This is a team that you've played with for a while. You know the ins and outs of this team. You know this offense, being a senior here, a fifth-year senior. Just talk about, what are some of your expectations and goals being, having that chemistry and having that bond with the other three starters?
Just knowing the system, being a leader is probably my biggest goal, making sure my team's doing what it has to do, as well as me doing what I have to get done, and just kind of carrying the team and getting where we need to be.
Now, what are some things that you worked on in the offseason to maybe enhance your game a little bit?
Ball handling and developing a jump shot, because I was kind of a two-dimensional player, and now kind of trying to get the all-around, kind of tightening everything up.
Now, going back to Reno here, what was your experience playing in that neutral site championships tournament format? Did you like that? How did you like playing a neutral site as opposed to going over to the first place host site?
It was nice because we all got to see everyone play. We got to see men's and women's, seeing all the teams around, as well as not having really a home court advantage, like going to Montana or North Dakota, long travels, or just a loud gym. It was nice.
And then you guys have already had a couple of weeks of practice under your belt here. How's practice been going, and what's some of the things that Coach Schuller and the staff's been focused on?
It's been a lot of just teaching, getting down the basics of our system. We're starting to come together now. We're just working on basically making sure we know our stuff.
And then this is your senior year here, and you're a fifth-year senior here. This is your last kind of go around here. What's been some kind of your favorite moments so far within the last 4 years?
Probably the big games. I can't really. One I remember is our buzzer beater against Montana, and kind of just the ups and downs of being here. They all play a part in why it's been a good experience for me.
All right, well, we'll go to our first phone-in question here. You're on air with the Eastern Washington University women's basketball team. State your name and your question.
Hi, this is, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jason. Your line is open.
Okay, great. This is Jason Ashcraft over at the Big Sky office. This question is for Coach Schuller. Coach, this year in women's basketball, with just as much turnover as we've had with student athletes graduating, it seems like there's a lot of questions. Do you kind of feel like this women's basketball race this year is anybody's game, or do you feel like there are going to be some teams that maybe are the usual suspects, or what is kind of your feeling as to the state of women's basketball in the Big Sky Conference?
I think women's basketball in the Big Sky is as healthy and strong as it's ever been. It'll be an interesting year because of the turnover that you alluded to, with a lot of great players that graduated. But I think there's a lot of great players coming back, and it's going to be fun and exciting to see some of the young players in this league as they grow their games. But I really think it's kind of going to be the same old when it comes to parity in the conference. Last year teams that weren't expected to do really well did, and some teams that maybe were expected to have great seasons didn't achieve their expectations. But there's always someone that rises from the ashes and surprises everyone. And you never know, with injuries and chemistry and everything else that goes into the equation. There's a lot of basketball in front of us before we even get to Big Sky play. So I think that it's going to be a horse race for sure.
All right, great. And a follow-up question here for Tisha. There seems to be a lot of talent around the league. Who do you think you stack up well against in the Big Sky Conference?
Do I what?
I can see Montana, as usual. They're always a hard team to beat. Sac State, Montana State, Idaho, of course. They always give us a good game. I mean, pretty much the ones who were picked in the top 4 or 5.
All right, thanks, ladies.
All right, we'll move on here to Jim Allen, the spokesman review. Jim, go ahead and ask your question.
I forgot all the teams in the conference.
Just got a couple of questions. First for Tisha, how do you see your role changing in this compared to last year?
Last year, my job when I stepped in, I pretty much be a leader, try to run my team, run the offense, make sure we're all on the same page. And this year, I feel like losing Haley, that kind of opens up more offensively, because last year I kind of just took what was given to me, and this year it's kind of we have to make up what we lost with Haley.
Wendy, a couple questions about the inside players. Ashley's back, had a strong last year. Mariah, what are you expecting from those two in terms of picking up some of that slack inside and just being more dominant inside?
Yeah, I think I think Ashley Payne is more comfortable with her back to the basket than she was a year ago, and that makes her just such a threat because she's a great three-point shooter. She can bounce it from the perimeter, and now she's comfortable with her back to the basket. So she's a tough player to guard. Mariah has just continued to improve offensively, and we don't try and do a million things inside. We try and just do the things that we do well, and she's done that. And Amira Chandler, I think that she kind of had a little coming out about mid-season last year, or maybe even midway through conference play. You could just kind of see a light go on with her, and I think that Amira is going to continue to play better and better, and the more minutes and the more experience she has, she's going to give us that threat inside, because she's big. She's 6'2", and physically she's added muscle to her frame, and she looks really good. And so I think that we've got several players. Allie Sealby's another one that Allie looks really good and has improved from a year ago. And we're young inside, and I think that those guys are just going to continue to grow and get better.
Finally, in the backcourt, who are some of the younger players, some of the newcomers and underclassmen who you expect to step up?
We're really excited about our freshman class. They're talented. They are great athletes. They're great basketball players. Uriah Howard comes from Oakland and played at Miramonte High School, where she was on one of the best high school teams in the country, and just does so many things. Uriah can post. She can shoot the three. She's going to be a really good defender, I think. Simone Starks is a point guard who, again, comes from another great high school program in Colorado, and is going to be a special point guard. I think it's great that she has the opportunity to play with Tisha for a year and just really learn how to be a crafty, tough player. And then Amy Hardworld's our other freshman, and she's talented. She's a long, wiry kid that has a lot of aspects to her game. So I think those three freshmen are really going to be significant contributors. And then the best part about last year's freshmen is now they're sophomores, and they've got that year under their belt. They played a lot of minutes as freshmen last year, and so I think all the sophomores, I mentioned Amir and Allie, but Capri and Key, those guys are all going to be better for us,
Thank you.
All right, we'll have one more phone question here. It'll be our last question for the women's basketball team, and then we'll move on to the men's. So go ahead and ask your question. You're on. Go ahead.
Hey, this is Colter Nuanes from Skyline Sports. This question is for Coach Schuller. Just wanted to ask you, what do you think of just mid-major basketball in general, and where Eastern Washington fits into that, where the Big Sky Conference fits into it in general? What are some of the challenges, and how have you guys tried to address those, and what do you think you guys need to do going forward to continue to help this league and your own program rise as a mid-major program?
The question was, what do you think the state of mid-major women's basketball is, and what are some of the challenges that you guys face as a mid-major program, be it travel schedule, scheduling in general, playing in bigger schools? Just what are some of the challenges that go along with it, and just kind of how are you able to overcome those?
Yeah, I think that the state of mid-major women's basketball is great right now. There was a long time that there was a huge gap between the big dogs and the rest of us, and I think that we've narrowed that gap quite a bit. And you saw that in the NCAA tournament last year. You saw a lot of 12 seeds beating 5 seeds, et cetera, or just being in games where it used to be those were blowouts. So I think mid-major basketball is really good right now, and that's just because women's basketball talent, there's more good players. Now it's not that all the big schools get all the good players and the rest of us kind of figured out. We all have good players. We all have really good players. Our talent level is greater than it was 5 years ago and 10 years ago, and I think everybody around the league feels that way. But there are challenges. There's challenges with scheduling and getting people to come to your place because you don't have the guaranteed dollars that some of those big schools have. The Big Sky is arguably one of the toughest leagues in the leagues in the country in terms of travel. It can be brutal, and so we don't always charter our flights and do those types of things, and so that can make the travel tougher than it might be on an Oregon or a USC or somebody like that. But I feel like we're right there. I mean, we've beaten Washington State and University of Florida in the last couple of years, and so I think we've shown that we can play at a high level.
Well, Coach, we appreciate your time. Tisha, thank you very much for your time as well. We know you guys have to get back to a practice. We really appreciate you taking the time out of this. Best of luck this season. You guys start on November 6th, an exhibition contest against Eastern Oregon at 1 p.m., and they officially kick off the season at the preseason WNIT at in-state rival Washington on November 11th at 7 p.m. So come out, support your Eags, and thank you guys for coming in, and we'll be right back with Jim Hayford and Julian Harrell.